Michael, we're 4,500 miles apart. You're in America and I'm in Sweden. Still, I was able to fix your home theater by remote calibration. And 2 years down the line, how does it sound?
It sounds magnificent. And I was skeptical that this ever could happen remotely, but you proved that it definitely can.
How has the reactions been from friends and family?
Well, they're absolutely astounded when they come up here, and particularly the skeptics who said that this couldn't be done, well, said, "Oh my God, it can be done." And it sounds fantastic. Most people that come up here and enjoy the experience, and it's better than probably going to the local movie theater.
I used FaceTime to coach Michael how to set up his room, and then I took control over his laptop and did the remote calibration.
And I was thinking back at our adventure. So I kept most of the emails, and it started in January of 2023 and finished in May of 2023. It was about 5 months of back and forth, you know. And we had a lot of different challenges, but I can't count how many times back and forth we either were on FaceTime or Zoom or TeamViewer and all of the devices you use to make this happen. And I know one of the things that you're trying to establish is that I'm sitting in South Carolina and you're in Sweden. And to be frank, I think I told you this when we started down this road. I asked a few people what they thought of doing it, and they said, "Are you nuts? You got to have the guy in the room. You're doing a calibration. Well, how can you think that you're going to be able to do it and he's going to be able to do it?" And I'd tell him, show him your resume and so forth, and you've done this before. In fact, I think you had measured how many 4,500 plus miles in distance between the two of us. So I was a little skeptical. But having experienced what happened with a professional calibrating my TV, I said, I wonder what it would be like to have somebody do a calibration for my Marantz processor. And I had 7 speakers and 2 subs. So it was a fairly sophisticated home theater at that point. And I tried locally to find anybody with any expertise, and same thing. Nobody around here could really do anything that I wasn't doing. So somewhere in this, I came across you because I was interested in wireless headphones. And I think I saw a video when you reviewed the Focal Bathise. And I was very much interested in that and the B&W. And I watched your review along with many others. And then I think I asked you a question. You were very nice. And then we had, I don't know, I guess a back and forth. And I expressed my frustration about trying to find somebody. And that's when you jumped in and said, "Oh, Michael, I can do that for you." And I said, "What? You can't do that? You're in Sweden. I can just talk to you or text you," which, led to inquiring. We had preliminary conversations by text and phone. And I'm going to tell you that the same guy who told me about the calibration of the TV said, "Don't you go down and spend all that money. That's ridiculous. He can't do it." And as you know, I have a son-in-law who's a part-time recording engineer, very sophisticated, and he said, "Michael, no, that can't happen." So I'm the type of guy that basically has to find out for himself. So we went back and forth, and make a longer story shorter, we engaged. You convinced me that you could do it, and obviously you did it. Or we wouldn't be having this conversation in the at all if you didn't do it, and if I wasn't very, very happy with what you did. And it was a fascinating process, which took 5 months. give or take.
So I was up for the challenge. I have done remote calibration before, but of course we have the Atlantic Ocean in between us. This small thing called time difference that kind of makes everything take so much more time to get the time to hook up. But so you had your installer telling you not to go for it, and you had Chris, your son-in-law, telling
I'm
you
not
not
even
to
going to
do it.
mention my wife who said, "What's this going to cost?" And you know what? I didn't tell her. I have found it's a lot better. Don't give her the exact price. I said it's not a problem. I said it's more going to be more technical than financial. So, you know, it was a fascinating experience, and both of those guys, the ones that said, "Don't do this. You're going to waste your money," when they sat here and listened and watched, I have a lot of concert videos, particularly the guy who saw me the TV. He said, "This is the greatest sounding home theater I've ever been in. And the only thing that could match it was a professional studio that had equipment that was probably $250,000. He was just amazed at the sound. And because he had been in my room several times because he sold me a lot of product, he understood what the sound was. So the bottom line was both of those guys who said, "Don't do this," were super impressed. What can I say? I think I've told you that, and you had recommended getting Mad Max Fury Road and play the intro. So when I want to shamelessly impress people, I put that on. Now, I don't know if this is, I
Perfect.
can't, terrific. Can't stand the film. Don't enjoy watching the film. I'm not even sure I've watched it to its conclusion, but I've seen that introduction, 15 times because there are two things in this that really stand out. One would be the calibration of the bass, there's two subs that I have here, which that took a lot of effort on your part, and it ultimately led to you using a different a little tool that you hadn't anticipated. And the Atmos speakers in my room is bizarre. In fact, years ago when I was had bought my last receiver, I happened to ask the sales guy, "Can I put any Atmos speakers in the ceiling?" And he took one look at the ceiling. He said, "No way, because you need a flat ceiling, man." And I said, "Oh, okay." So we have four Atmos speakers up there, which was interesting and a challenge, no question about it, because I have pretty much sloped ceilings with only one area that is essentially flat. And when you put the Mad Max intro on, and it's a stunning sound, in terms of what goes on. And my my other daughter, when I showed, she didn't really want to watch that, but I showed that to her. She said, "My God, this is almost like being in the IMAX theater. It's stunning." And I think you had said that it's probably one of the most stunning, show offs, along with Ready Player 2. I think it's Ready Player. Maybe it's just Ready Player.
Ready Player One. Yep.
Ready Player One. Yeah, that's also a great demo disc of things that are going on with regard to Atmos speakers. So, and I think you mentioned it, is that when you have really great equipment, it shows off wonderful content, wonderful mixes, and at the same time, if you have bad stuff, it shows all the flaws. You know, and I think you've mentioned that in terms of quality. So it works both ways.
Yeah. I call it the hi-fi curse. When you have that detailed listening situation, you can really hear the flaws. But the upper part is that when it's a good mix, it sounds fantastic. And I have to confess, Michael, with the Mad Max Fury Road, I haven't even seen the whole movie. I've seen half of it, and I've seen the intro 350 times, and I know it word by word.
I know there are a lot of Mad Max fans. Anyway, my analysis, I thought the two things that required the most effort was calibrating the subs and positioning the Atmos speakers and getting that straight. You might say there are other aspects of it that were more challenging than some of the other stuff that you did. And thinking back over the 5 months of working back and forth, I think that the most challenging part, you might not necessarily agree 100%, was calibrating the subwoofers. I know you asked me to move them around the room, which and the room has limitations, and they're basically in the same position they were in the beginning. I had ultimately 2 Atmos speakers mispositioned that I should have 4, and then it was a question of finding the right position and getting the guys to come back, the tech guys, and wiring it. That was a challenge that they did a great job. I thought those were the 2 most time that we spent trying to work through what needed to work through. The acoustic panels had some challenges, I think, in trying to find the exact spaces that you wanted for the acoustic panels. But
like you said, the subwoofers, that was one of my main challenges. And it always is in every room, in every setup. We should mention that you have beautiful hi-fi speakers. I mean, you have Bowers and Wilkins 802,
and they're about 30 years old because they were pre-Diamond.
great speakers, and you have Bowers and Wilkins center speaker and
Right.
surround, and then
Yeah,
and the ceiling speakers as well.
the
M1.
ceiling speakers. Yeah, they're all B&W with the exception of my rears that are a couple of Kef speakers.
Yeah. And then you have the SVS subwoofers,
Right.
pretty large. I worked you to
Right.
move one of them around.
Yeah, well,
And I still feel bad about that.
the Ultra 16 sealed because the ported ones would have been a monster. So yeah, they're very large for a relatively small room, which probably made the change.
Yeah, but it's interesting that you said that the subwoofers, for sure, that was one of my main challenges. And I'm actually, speaking of it, I'm going to bring up some pictures for you to watch. Can you see the graph?
Oh yeah,
This is actually your left SVS SB16 Ultra 16-inch sealed subwoofers. You have 2 of them. So this is the measurement that I made of the left subwoofer. Basically, if we go from 20 hertz, we are at 87. And here we have a null at 44 or something like that. And we are up almost at 94. And then we are down to 78. So we are easily plus minus 10, 12 dBs in frequency variation. And if we check the right subwoofer, quite a bit of difference in frequency response between the left and the right subwoofer. Of course, they're in different positions in the room, so that's normal. But the thing with Odyssey that we use to calibrate your home theater with in the Marantz AV processor, what it does in the older units is that when it measures the subwoofers, it measures them together. So this is how the 2 subwoofers measure together. So this is actually kind of the signal that the Odyssey calibration system measures. And then it tries to calibrate this and bring up this null and this boost, natural boost. And you can see, so left subwoofer, right subwoofer, both together. So I incorporated a mini DSP unit, as you said, and and Michael, I have to confess, when I asked you for things, I got to think about my late father. Actually, when I was young, and I wanted something from him, I wanted him to give me some money for something or help me with something. He would always do it, but I have to motivate him and tell him why. And I felt the same way with you, Michael, because naturally you asked me why. Well, I need it because blah, blah, blah. And then I told you Yeah, you need to get the mini DSP unit. You need to get a microphone, and we ordered stuff on Amazon. And Michael, the beautiful thing with your subwoofers is that when I were done with the calibration, and as you said, it took a while for me, and I did it remotely, it looks like this.
Right. And that's an incredible graphic, and the sound reflects it.
Yeah, I'm so happy to hear it because this is not a graph that will be presented inside your AV processor when it has fixed your subwoofers. This is the measured frequency response in Room EQ Wizard. So you can't fool Room EQ Wizard. So I'm really happy with this calibration, and we are. If you can believe that you really can measure down at 10 hertz, because a 10 hertz bass wave is like 34 meters long. But anyway, the room energy response at 10 hertz, we are at 12 hertz here, and we have a plus minus 2.5 dB between 10 and 160 hertz. And I think that the Dolby Atmos standard says plus minus 3 between 31 and 120 hertz. We are well beyond the limits of or within better than the Dolby Atmos standard. So I'm super happy about this result.
Considering everything, there isn't anybody that hasn't come up here that has never been, including tech guys that they basically say, "Can we watch something?" And they sit down, and it's supposed to be working, and I play them some music or I play that intro. They say, "My God!" So there was one guy that he wanted his boss to come here and take a look and listen. So he brought him here and said, "Look at this." So, I'm pretty happy. No question about that.
Yeah, fantastic, Michael. And as I said, so we fixed subwoofers. That's an important part, and the Atmos speakers. When we first started discussing possible remote calibration, and you sent me pictures, of course I saw some low hanging fruits in my mind. That I would instantly be able to help you with, and with Atmos speakers, that was one of those things, because they had been positioned as more front height speakers above the hi-fi left-right Bowers and Wilkins speakers. And I told you that, Michael, they have to go up in the ceiling, and there have to be two more of them. And I have to confess, I still don't understand how your ceiling is constructed. I have done my best, but it's just so intricate with the angles.
It has all types of angles, the roof itself, hence the room has all types of angles. And when I moved down here, I told the agent, one of the things that I needed space to have a home theater, no matter how this would work out. And so he tried to tell me, this might work. And I was a little skeptical of that too when I took a look at the space, but my wife loved the house. I had no choice. I was buying this, and we were going to do the best we could. And truth be told, it's so much better being detached, because I can play it as loud as I want, and
Perfect.
I don't have. And the other home theater, I kept getting complaints that dishes were rattling and noise. It was too noisy. Turn it down. Turn it down. And I think, like anybody who likes rock and roll and so forth, wants to play it loud. So that was sort of, uh, here I'm isolated. I can play it as loud as I want. Doesn't make any difference. And so it turned out actually perfect when you think about it.
Yeah. So just to conclude with the Atmos speakers, because I have so many clients that have two Atmos speakers set up, usually above the head, somewhere around there in the ceiling, or as you had, like a front ceiling speakers. How was it to get them in the proper position and add two more speakers?
Yeah, well, it wasn't easy with trying to make sure you understood with a camera. Um, and in the back of my mind, I was also concerned about the wiring part of it because obviously you weren't going to be doing that. That was going to be done by tech, and they parenthetically did a great job of moving. I still don't understand how they can do it within the walls and the ceiling, but they did do it. If anybody has not had the experience of going to a Dolby Atmos theater, I can't tell you what a great experience that is. It's almost better than just the IMAX because we have two IMAX theaters in our area here, one of which they turned into a Dolby Atmos venue. So I went to see the Bob Marley in Dolby Atmos, and then I went and bought the this biopic on Bob Marley, and I was kind of curious because in the theater it was magnificent sound. So I bought the disc and I played it on this system, and I got to tell you, it sounded pretty good. Now I'm not going to say it was as good as the Dolby Atmos theater, but still, it was pretty impressive.
Yeah. Fair enough. Fair enough. That's great to hear. And then the room acoustics, because you hadn't really fixed anything with the room acoustics. I knew that was a low-hanging fruit, and we had to have some discussions back and forth to find the right products and the way to set them up. And fast forward, when the acoustic treatment was done, how did you feel about the difference in sound quality?
Panels that we have here, the bass traps behind the mains, and then there are three panels in one of the sloping ceilings. You got side panels here and another one back there. Um, you might take measurements and mathematically say, "Oh my God, look at these frequencies," and do a before and after. As far as hearing, I think that the calibration probably impacted me more, particularly the subs, than the room treatment. Parenthetically, we were in my mind, the theater and the sound was at a fairly high level. There wasn't anybody even before this exercise that didn't walk in here and listen to a concert or watch a movie that didn't think, "Hey, this is pretty good," So we were working not at a very low level. The panels, you persuaded me, and I had it in my home theater before, so I was aware how important acoustic treatments. And if you go into any movie theater, you know that, or any studio, you know how they treat the walls to basically enhance the sound. So on faith, I'm sure it has an impact.
Yeah, and we're actually thinking back on it, and I would put that in the fixing acoustics category. We gave your center speaker some love.
Yeah. We essentially got a little platform to raise the center, along with obviously calibrating the center channel. And I think the dialogue, considering my hearing is not exactly the greatest, I think that the dialogue is clearer, and the center channel. You may recall that I had you do two calibrations, one for disc and one for streaming, because I complained a little bit about the center channel. The voice didn't sound normal, natural to me. So you did two calibrations, one for streaming, and you solved whatever the problem is. And now I'm going to ask you, because I found out that particular calibration worked even better with discs. I did that by accident. So I don't bother switching calibrations at this point because I had,
Perfect.
I just listened to the way it was done for the streamer, and I'm happy with it. I don't know exactly what you did do to change the sound of the voice in the center channel, but obviously you did. And so I only use one calibration, and for any content, whether it's disc or streaming, it sounds great to me.
Just to explain to the viewers a bit of how we worked when I had done all measurements and we gotten the acoustic panels up and I had the subwoofers properly calibrated. I just said to you, Michael, now I just want you to watch movies for a week. Movies and Netflix, and have this little notepad, and you just write down subjectively whatever you're thinking. It doesn't have to be technical. And you did that. You were a good student, a good pupil. So
Thank you.
then yeah, and then you came back to me like a week later, and you gave me some thoughts, and I kind of processed them and reversed engineered them into technical terms. And I knew that Chris, your son-in-law, he helped up with a base calibration thing that he was thinking about. That of course was rather technical, but that I appreciated a lot, and I understood what he was aiming for. So that was part of that calibration, if I don't remember, if I remember right. And the really rewarding moment for me was then that I told you, Michael, you can just go skip the subtitles and just go up and down with the center channel if you'd like. Just make a note how much you change it. And then when I asked you about it, you said, I haven't changed it at all.
Yeah, like seriously, because I'm the type of guy that experiments a bit, and I haven't thought about the calibration, or I may have experimented with the center channel and changed a little bit, but then I went back to the original, and that's been it for over a year. I don't remember the last time that I even thought about changing the sound. I think the main point that and you were nice enough to do two calibrations, and there were two inputs for calibrations on Marantz, and you solved whatever I thought I was hearing. Parenthetically, again, I'll use my wife and some other people. They didn't hear what I was hearing. They thought it was fine, and I kept mumbling and saying, "I don't like the way this sounds," so forth. And you solved it, whatever you did. I don't know if you remember exactly what it is that you did to change the center channel.
Yeah, I believe I were doing something with the crossover filters in the center channel.
No, I thought that some bass was leaking into the voice, and it
Yeah,
was causing it to sound to
that was the
my
thing.
ears
Yep.
unnatural. But
Yeah, but Michael, you're a technical guy. You just don't want to admit it. I thought
oh, I wouldn't.
your I thought your comments were perfect, and I were up, I were up for the challenge, and I found it really intriguing too. And just to explain what we used, we in short, in technical terms, I had you buy a PC laptop because you're a Mac
Right,
guy. I had you
right.
buy a mini DSP for a subwoofer calibration. Where you bought a sound card and an extra measurement mic, and then you already had your Odyssey measurement mic. And then what I basically did was that I logged on via TeamViewer to your laptop, and we were a lot on FaceTime, and you were showing me things, and I were in. And I remember, that time where, when Odyssey said that, oh, the center channel, it's out of phase. I told you that. Well, you can't always trust Odyssey to make the right adjustment. Odyssey sometimes it just report that this speaker is out of phase, and I mean you have very nice hi-fi speakers, and we knew that they were in phase, but still I wanted you to check it because I wanted to be 100% sure, and I had you were behind with the cables and everything, and I were on your laptop remotely doing carriage, and I just went into my technical mode, and then I heard you saying, Frederick, are you done with me for now? Yeah. I'm all good because I were on the computer. Yeah, I need a glass of wine.
Yeah, definitely.
And you certainly
I
deserved
can't
it.
even calculate uh, a quick a quick anecdote was all my hardware is in a closet, and I had a shelf that I used to house all of the equipment that I have, whether it's the 3 amps and the Marantz and the Oppo Blu-ray player, and it was very tight in there. And then in order to basically do something, you had me in there, and one of the tech guys who had to go in there and do a lot of different things tried to say to me, "Why don't you get one of these movable racks, man? Do that. That would be great." And I said, "Great for who? You?" So I was behind there for a long time. And after I got out of there, I said, "Man, I'm buying a movable rack because I'm never doing that again." And I felt pity for the guy who kept going back there to do whatever wiring he needed to do. So now I have a nice rack, housing all the equipments. Uh, but that phase, out of phase, that drove us nuts.
Yeah, and it's just one of those obstacles. And when I visit my clients, there's always a challenge for me. I know how a dentist think when they get a patient. Please sit down, open your mouth, and it can look anyway. Look, you know,
I'm not
anyway.
sure I'm capturing that analogy, but whatever.
Yeah, it can look either way inside the mouth, and that's actually the same how I feel sometimes with hi-fi and home cinema setups. But as the dentist, I'm always able to improve the
Yeah,
condition.
the other thing too, and anybody watching this should know, you are a perfectionist, Frederick. I mean,
Yes, thank you.
you go the last inch, forget about mile.
Yeah,
So,
yeah. So, Michael, a really great talk, and so to sum this up, we did this project together. We have the Atlantic Ocean in between us. If somebody watching this is thinking about, ooh, should I invest in my home theater and hire Frederick to do remote calibration? What would you say to them?
well, if it hasn't already been obvious, 100%, no question about that. Sometimes you do certain things, whether you buy some product or you hire somebody to do a job and so forth, and you say afterwards, I wish I had that decision to make again. Unquestionably, Frederick, and I'm not, and I'm being sincere that it turned out great, and it was so enjoyable getting to know you, and I'm a very happy client. Sound is great.
I'm so glad to hear that, Michael. And we had a lot of great discussions about basically anything during the calibration process. So it was really enjoyable for me and as well, getting to know your family as well and you.
Well, yeah, and and you have an open invitation to come and listen to the in person. See what you think about the room. You might even say, might have to make a little adjustment because what you hear is not necessarily what I hear. I mean, I'm happy.
Do you still have the PC laptop? I just need to do some
Yes,
tweaking.
it's there's a little storage space that I have that laptop along with some other stuff. It's sitting there. The idea of ever using it happens to be a Lenovo PC. Yeah, I am an Apple guy, and it was interesting getting to even work the PC.
Yeah.
But it was fundamentally it was basic and TeamViewer. You still use TeamViewer, I presume, unless technology has evolved.
Sure. I've used it for 15, 20 years. It's a great tool. I used it 2 weeks ago at the client in Stockholm and helped him out. So it's fantastic. So Michael, a quick chat about your system. You have a Marantz AV processor, and you have Emotiva amplifiers,
Right.
and
Great.
and you have the Bowers Wilkins 802 before Diamond. Yeah, so really, really fine. Yeah, really, 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 really fine hi-fi speakers, and you have a Bowers and Wilkins center speaker, surround speakers, and then at the surround back you have KEF speakers, and then you have four Bowers and Wilkins M1, I believe, in the ceiling. So you have a 7.2.4 Dolby Atmos system, and it's a really nice, I would call a hybrid setup, because you have really, really nice hi-fi speakers, which makes sense because all the concerts and DVD concerts and Blu-ray concerts that you watch. And you just tell me something about your system yourself, in the way what you're thinking about it. And
I have an Oppo Blu-ray 4K player and an Apple streamer. And the subs are SVS's Ultra 16 sealed subs, two of them beside the two main 802s. The TV is an 83-inch OLED. Can't tell you how incredible it is in terms of picture quality. So, the room itself, I think I gave you the dimensions, and I wouldn't be far off if I said it's maybe 22 in length and about 15 in width. That has odd types of shapes. So the TV being 83 inches is fairly nice in terms of size. Got two front seats with a riser behind me with four other seats. Don't sit there very often. Added a bar and a refrigerator and a microwave to make some popcorn as necessary. So it's very nice and very comfortable and very cozy. And I don't go to movie theaters except for IMAX.
it has to be even better than your own setup, basically, in
Yeah,
size.
yeah. Well, I've said to you before how much I love IMAX. I'm the only guy that probably has seen Dune three times in IMAX and Dolby Atmos. Dune being, and I obviously bought the discs. Dune is also an incredible reference disc to watch a movie in Dolby Atmos. Um, that's about it in terms of the room itself and the acoustic panels. I'm counting 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 acoustic panels in one form or another around the room. And since the room has so many odd angles and so forth and so on, I'm assuming, again, maybe I can't hear it, but I'm assuming that you've controlled the frequencies that are bouncing around in this room.
Yeah, and I could see the difference in the measurements when you had done the acoustic treatment. And what I think that you might not think about, but I think that once the acoustic treatment were installed, you most likely were able to easily hear the dialogue. Maybe you didn't think
Yeah,
about
it
it.
probably,
That
it
way.
probably,
Yeah.
yeah, it probably did.
Yeah.
Uh, Bottom line, it sounds great, and again, as I've said to you before, depending on the content, it can be wonderful or not so good.
Wonderful for you to share your story, and it was a blast working with you and helping you out with your home theater. And for you watching this video, if you need help, you just contact me and click the link below. And if you like this video, how about giving it a thumbs up or even a super thanks? And that way you contribute to my channel financially. And don't forget to hit the subscription button. And until next time we talk, Michael, say hi to the family and have a
I will.
great evening.
Thank you. And you too. It's always been a pleasure interacting with you, Frederick.